Why did a powerful CEO walk into a crumbling classroom and never want to leave? It started with a simple mistake, the kind an assistant gets scolded for, and a father forgets by lunchtime. But when Daniel Reid's 5-year-old daughter ended up in the wrong school, he didn't expect her to smile for the first time in months, or to meet a young teacher who didn't recognize his name, didn't fear his power, and didn't look away from his grief. What followed wasn't just unexpected. It was impossible to ignore, because sometimes the wrong door opens into exactly the right life. Before we dive into the story, comment below where you're watching from. Enjoy the story, everyone. The mistake wasn't dramatic. No flashing lights, no panicked calls. Just a sleepy Monday morning and a silent little girl named Lily stepping into the wrong building. Daniel's driver hadn't noticed the discrepancy. The nameplates were nearly identical. Jefferson Academy, Jefferson Primary. One elite and gleaming with stone lions at the entrance. The other a weathered brick box with paint peeling from the playground fence. Inside classroom 1B, Angelica Maud was already rearranging desks when she heard small footsteps and the uncertain shuffle of a child lingering in the doorway. She turned, expecting one of her usuals, maybe Jonah forgetting his backpack again, or Ava hiding from morning math. But instead, she saw a little girl clutching a stuffed fox to her chest, dressed in an immaculate navy coat and polished leather shoes. Her eyes, a startling blue-gray, scanned the room like a place she didn't recognize. "Hey there," Angelica said gently, crouching down. "Are you lost, sweetheart?" The girl didn't answer. She simply handed over a crumpled paper with her name on it. Lily Reid. Angelica frowned, then smiled again, softer this time. "Well, Lily, welcome. You're a little early and a little unexpected, but let's see what we can figure out together." 10 miles across town, Daniel Reid was already at his second espresso and third email. He hadn't spoken to Lily that morning beyond a kiss on the head. She rarely answered anyway. Since her mother's passing a year ago, Lily's voice had gone quiet, her smile all but vanished. Daniel told himself she was coping. Quiet wasn't bad. He'd paid for the best therapists, tutors, caregivers. He didn't notice the text from his assistant until noon. "There's been a mix-up. Lily wasn't dropped at Jefferson Academy." His heart lurched. Not because she was unsafe, he assumed she wasn't, but because unpredictability was his least favorite variable. He built entire empires by eliminating chaos. And now his own daughter was, where, exactly? Angelica, meanwhile, had made Lily a makeshift name tag and let her color with the other students. She didn't press her to speak. Some kids needed time. Lily hadn't smiled, but she hadn't run either. Progress as far as Angelica was concerned. When Daniel's black car pulled into the cracked asphalt parking lot, it looked like a spaceship landing in a junkyard. He stepped out in a tailored charcoal coat, shoes so clean they reflected the cloudy sky, and walked through the front doors with the purposeful gait of someone who never needed to ask for directions. The receptionist was flustered. "Sir, may I help? I'm here for my daughter. She was dropped off here by mistake." "Oh, yes, Reid, right? She's with Miss Maud in 1B. Daniel blinked. "Miss who?" He walked down the corridor with impatience barely concealed beneath his calm expression. The school smelled like pencil shavings and old radiators. Paintings lined the walls, messy, bright, imperfect. When he reached the door, he paused. Through the narrow glass window, he saw her. Not Lily. The teacher. Angelica stood in the center of the room, crouched beside a boy showing her a drawing. She laughed, not politely, not out of obligation. It was real, belly deep, like she'd just seen magic in a scribbled crayon monster. Lily sat at a nearby table, silent, coloring. But her posture was different. Less guarded. The fox plush lay beside her. One hand clutched a blue crayon. Her mouth was slightly open, not quite a smile, but close. Daniel opened the door. The warmth of the room hit him like a wall. Angelica looked up, startled, then stood. "Can I help you?" "I'm Daniel Reid," he said. "I believe my daughter was dropped here in error." Angelica blinked. "Oh, Lily." The name sounded different coming from her mouth. Softer. Like it mattered. "She's safe. She's been a joy, actually." Daniel's eyes flicked to Lily. She met his gaze for a split second, then looked away. "She doesn't usually take to new environments," he said. Angelica nodded. She didn't speak, but she sat. She colored. She made choices. Sometimes that's louder than words. He studied the woman in front of him. Young, late 20s maybe. Hair in a loose braid. No makeup. Sweater with chalk on the sleeve. Nothing about her should have commanded his attention. And yet, There was something disarming in her steadiness. Something inconvenient. I'll take her now. Of course. Angelica crouched to Lily's level. Hey Lily, your dad's here. Lily didn't react. She stood slowly, gathered her things, but didn't look excited or relieved. Daniel extended a hand. Come on, sweetheart. She walked to him, but something in her pace felt reluctant. I'm sorry for the trouble, he said curtly. Angelica shook her head. She wasn't trouble. Outside, as Daniel buckled Lily into the car, he couldn't shake the way Angelica had looked at him. Not judgmental, not impressed, just present. Back at the office, he told himself the incident was closed. A glitch. His assistant was mortified. Apologies were made. Logistics corrected. But that night, Lily put her fox on the kitchen table and drew a picture of a classroom. And in the corner, a woman with a braid. Daniel slept little. Sometime after midnight, he found himself scrolling absently through quarterly reports, yet his mind replayed a single image. Lily, shoulders uncurled, bent over a picture she had chosen to finish instead of hiding behind him. By 2 a.m. he was standing in the kitchen, mug cooling in his hand, staring at her drawing on the fridge. Wax crayon lines wobbled but certain, tiny desks, a lanky stick-figure teacher with an impossibly long braid, a row of sunny windows that didn't exist in her own expensive classroom. The next morning he accompanied Lily to Jefferson Academy, determined to reassure himself the system he'd bought into still made sense. Marble lobby, polished brass plaques, a receptionist who said good morning, Mr. Reid, without meeting his eyes. Lily's homeroom teacher greeted them with perfect diction and a smile so rehearsed Daniel almost bowed in response. Yet when the woman ushered Lily to a table of tablets and cursive practice, his daughter drifted to a corner puzzle, gaze flat. No color, no fox, no Angelica. During lunch, the headmistress invited Daniel to her office for artisanal coffee. She praised Lily's test readiness, spoke of leadership pathways and social advantage. Daniel nodded, hearing only the sterile hum of the air-handling vents. At dismissal, Lily emerged holding a certificate for quiet excellence. He tried to praise her, but her fingers worried the paper until it tore. That night she drew nothing. On Wednesday, his calendar showed a gap between mergers meetings, a 40-minute window no one filled because his assistant still feared missteps. Daniel slid into the back seat of his car and gave an address his driver didn't recognize. When he stepped onto the cracked pavement of Jefferson Primary, he convinced himself it was mere due diligence. Angelica was outside supervising recess, wind tugging loose strands from her braid. Children swirled around her in messy orbits. Tag, soccer, dizzy races toward a sagging maple. She spotted him and lifted a questioning brow. He approached the chain-link fence. Could we talk? A whistle blew. 2 boys abandoned an argument over a fraying football. Angelica handed playground duty to a colleague and opened the gate. Everything okay with Lily? She's functionally fine. He exhaled, surprised by the weight of the word. But she hasn't smiled since Monday. Angelica crossed her arms inside her cardigan sleeves. Children don't usually tell us what they need with words first. I'd like to hire you, he blurted. Private tutoring. Afternoons, art therapy, whatever you did that worked. The corners of her mouth twitched. What I did was offer crayons and ask which color was her favorite. Hard to invoice for that. I pay consultants 7 figures to state the obvious. That sounds tragic. A bell rang. Kids lined up, chatter echoing along brick walls. Angelica's colleague called her name. She turned back to Daniel. If Lily wants me in her life, let her ask. He started to protest, but she was already shepherding children inside, braids swinging like punctuation. That evening Lily announced, not quite above a whisper, that the fox's favorite color was turquoise. Daniel remembered Angelica's challenge. He swallowed pride and asked, would you like to visit the other school again? Lily's eyes widened, cautious hope flickering. She nodded twice, fast. Thursday found Daniel drafting an email to Jefferson Academy. Family emergency, Lily absent. At 10 a.m., he guided her into classroom 1B. No grand entrance this time. Desks buzzed with group reading. Angelica greeted Lily at eye level. Want to help me sort the new marker set? Lily produced the fox like a passport and followed her. Daniel stayed by the door, an observer in his own daughter's awakening. Within minutes, Lily was pairing caps to markers, correcting a boy who mismatched purple and plum. A laugh, small, rusted from disuse, escaped her. Daniel felt something loosen in his ribs. After school, Angelica motioned him to a courtyard bench littered with maple leaves. She's carrying a silent storm. Art gives storms somewhere to pour. Will you work with her? He asked. Formally. I'll arrange compensation, transport. Angelica shook her head. I'll do it here, during my prep blocks, if the principal approves. She needs peers more than private lessons. He stared at cracked concrete engraved with hopscotch ghosts. This building needs paint, new lockers, a roof that doesn't leak. I could fix everything? Angelica's smile was kind, not mocking. Let Lily fix herself first. That night, Daniel reviewed corporate philanthropy funds. A maintenance grant could flow to Jefferson Primary with minimal paperwork. He hovered over the approval button, then closed the window. Angelica's words echoed. Let Lily fix herself first. Control could masquerade as care. Friday afternoon, a notification pinged. Gossip wire. Tech Titans heiress slumming in public school. The article featured a blurred photo of Daniel beside the playground fence. Speculation soared, boardroom distractions, security risks, irresponsible parenting. His COO forwarded it with damage control strategy. In the subject line, he was drafting a rebuttal when another email arrived from Angelica, forwarded from her principal. Polite concern about media presence, fears of disruption, regretful suggestion that Lily remain at Jefferson Academy. Daniel's pulse slammed. A mistake had opened this door. Now scrutiny threatened to slam it shut. He typed rapidly, arranging a Saturday meeting with the principal, legal counsel, and security. Then he deleted the invite. This wasn't another hostile takeover. It was Lily, and Angelica, and something fragile between all three of them. He dialed Angelica instead. She picked up on the fifth ring, breathless, as if she'd run for the phone. Did you see the article? He asked. Yes. I can handle the press. I'm not worried about the press, she said. I'm worried about Lily thinking she's a headline. A silence filled with cars passing outside her window. Would you meet me tomorrow? He asked. Somewhere neutral. Off record. After a pause, there's an art supply store on Pierce Avenue. Opens at 9. They have a basement cafe nobody remembers. I'll be there. Saturday dawned wet and silver. Daniel arrived early, discovering the cafe smelled of dust and cinnamon. Angelica entered 5 minutes late, carrying a folded umbrella and the steadfast calm that disarmed boardrooms in ways she'd never realize. On the counter, a display of watercolor sets caught Lily's teacher's eye. She traced one tin absent-mindedly while Daniel ordered 2 coffees he guessed she liked. They settled at a corner table, steam spiraling between them like unsaid sentences. I don't want Lily to feel different because of me, he began. She is different, Angelica corrected softly. Her mother died. Her father is famous. Pretending otherwise teaches her to hide. Children need language for their truth. Daniel rubbed the rim of his cup. Truth in my world is leveraged or litigated. Then bring her to a world where it's painted. Angelica slid the watercolor tin toward him. Buy these. Sit with her tonight. Don't show her how, just ask her what looks like the color of missing mom. His throat thickened. That's dangerous territory. So is silence. They left together, rain easing to a drizzle. Daniel carried the tin like something breakable. Before they parted, Angelica touched his sleeve. Tomorrow's Sunday. We hold an unofficial big kid art club in the gym at 2. No cameras. Just mess. We'll come, he said, surprising himself. At home, Lily greeted him with reserved curiosity. He knelt, presented the watercolors. Want to paint with me? She traced the metal lid, eyes shining damply. They sat on the kitchen floor, newspapers spread, dipping brushes in hesitant hues. At sunset, Lily held up a page of swirls, turquoise, indigo, a courageous slash of crimson. In the corner, a tiny figure with a fox stood beneath a sky that bled from violet to dawn pink. Daniel whispered, tell me about it. Lily pressed the fox to her cheek and, for the first time in months, spoke more than a word. It's the color of things getting better, Daddy. He blinked hard, nodding, though he'd never thought of better as a shade before. Outside, headlines multiplied, markets shifted, and emails stacked unanswered. But on that kitchen floor, a fortress cracked open, just wide enough for color to pour through. And somewhere in a small apartment across town, Angelica rinsed brushes in her sink, unaware that Daniel Reid was staring at a page still wet with hope, already planning how to protect the world that had begun there. Sunday arrived wearing the clean light that sometimes follows hard rain, and Daniel found himself steering Lily toward the gymnasium doors of Jefferson Primary with an unaccustomed flutter in his chest. The building was unlocked only for a handful of children, the air filled with the squeak of sneakers and the chemical tang of tempera paint. Tarps stretched across the polished floor, tables sagged beneath recycled jars of brushes, and Angelica, hair twisted in a knot today, balanced on a step stool to tape craft paper across an entire cinderblock wall. She waved when she saw Lily, the gesture so casual it felt like they'd done this for years. Lily peeled away from Daniel without hesitation, fox tucked under one arm, and accepted a roll of neon tape from Angelica. Together they mapped out an enormous rectangle that Angelica called the community canvas. Daniel hovered near the bleachers until a polite cough startled him. An older man in paint-splattered overalls offered a palette. "New faces grab a brush," he said. "House rule." So Daniel knelt beside a boy meticulously outlining skyscrapers and added a shy streak of sky, embarrassed by the wobble in his stroke. The boy grinned approval. Daniel's pulse steadied. An hour later the wall pulsed with stories. Swirling galaxies, stick figures dancing. A whale bigger than a city block. Lily painted a fox leaping across the rooftops Daniel had attempted. The animal's tail a ribbon of turquoise and dawn pink. Angelica anchored a ladder so a girl named Sasha could reach the top edge, and when she looked over her shoulder at Daniel, paint smudged across her cheek. The gym lights caught something unguarded in her smile that sent a rare, dangerous warmth through him. The spell broke when his phone vibrated. He silenced it once, twice, until the screen flashed a name he couldn't ignore: Marilyn Wyatt, chair of his board. Stepping into the hallway, he answered. Marilyn skipped greetings. "Photos of you finger painting in a public school are circulating. Investors are nervous about focus drift. We need a statement before markets open." Daniel stared at the scuffed linoleum, heartbeat hammering. "Draft one that says I support arts education." "You're courting a PR storm over a hobby," Marilyn snapped. "Pull back before this becomes a proxy for leadership instability." He remembered Lily laughing, paint on her hands. "I'll call you tonight." He hung up before she could protest. Inside, children were adding glow-stick glitter to the mural, oblivious to share prices. He pocketed the phone, suddenly sure that share prices should be the ones bending. When the session ended, Angelica rolled the tarps while Daniel rinsed brushes. Lily tugged his sleeve, eyes bright. "Daddy, can we come next week?" He nodded and felt something brace inside him, an unspoken vow. The following days unfolded in double exposure, corporate fires by morning, crayon constellations by afternoon. Daniel split his schedule, citing field research, while Marilyn grew terse. Headlines questioned his judgment, tabloids speculated about the mystery art teacher. Paparazzi tried to photograph the school. Daniel hired discreet security that stayed outside the children's line of sight. Tuesday evening, Jefferson Primary's principal called an emergency meeting. Daniel arrived to find Angelica already seated, arms folded. The principal, Mr. Gaines, cleared his throat apologetically. "Mr. Reid, Ms. Maud, district leadership is concerned about media congestion. They suggest transferring Lily back to Jefferson Academy for her own privacy." Angelica spoke before Daniel could. "With respect, sir, removing Lily teaches she's the problem, not the cameras." Gaines sighed. "Our resources for controlling press are limited." Daniel leaned forward. "Then let me supply resources. Anonymous funding for perimeter improvements, after-school programming, anything that helps. My only condition is Lily stays. No public acknowledgement, no naming rights." Gaines blinked as if offered a planet. "I will need the board's approval." "Then let's meet them," Daniel said. Angelica shot him a cautious glance, but he saw gratitude flicker behind it. Outside, a cold wind riffled Angelica's skirt. "You're used to buying solutions," she said. He braced, expecting criticism. Instead she continued, "This time your money might actually fit the problem." She exhaled fog into the night. "Thank you." Daniel wanted to brush a stray curl from her forehead, but the distance between them brimmed with delicate, new trust. He settled for a smile. "Lily's worth more than every merger I've ever closed." "Remember that when the cost rises," Angelica murmured, half teasing, half prophetic. Cost rose sooner than either imagined. Wednesday morning, hackers defaced Daniel's company website with graffiti accusing him of elitist philanthrovanity. Shares dipped 3%. That afternoon, Lily's watercolor tin disappeared from her cubby. Angelica found her in tears. Fox clutched tight. A note lay where the paints had been. Rich kids don't belong here. Angelica's jaw locked. She escorted Lily to the art supply closet, dug out a fresh tin, and pressed it into the small hands. Money doesn't decide who belongs, people do, she said loud enough for eavesdropping corridors to hear. Daniel arrived minutes later, notified by security. He knelt, furious and helpless as Lily's tears stained his suit sleeve. Angelica touched his shoulder. She'll learn resilience faster than we can teach it if we stand steady now. That night Daniel convened his executive team. Some urged retreat, protect the company, shield Lily. Others proposed spin campaigns. Daniel listened, then closed his laptop. We're not retaliating. We're redirecting. He announced a new corporate initiative, a silent partnership funding underserved arts programs citywide. No press, just grants. His legal chief warned of shareholder backlash. Daniel replied, build me a firewall, I'll take the heat. Angelica stayed late at school, repainting cubbies with students who volunteered after hours. When Daniel came to pick Lily, he found the hallway glowing under fresh teal lacquer. Angelica held a roller like a knight would hold a sword. Splashes of paint flecked her hair. He offered to help. She handed him a tray, eyebrows arched. You ever painted a wall yourself? Only abstract spreadsheets. Their laughter echoed down the corridor while Lily and two friends dipped brushes and told ghost stories about the squeaky furnace. For the first time since loss carved holes in their hearts, father and daughter worked side by side for something not measured in profit. Near midnight, Angelica locked the front doors. Daniel escorted her to her rust-red hatchback, streetlights pooling amber. She hesitated before getting in, eyes shining tired and alive. People will keep pushing, she said. Kids mirror the adults. If this turns uglier, we'll protect them, he promised. She opened her mouth to protest ownership of we, then seemed to decide we included her too. With a small nod, she slipped inside the car and drove off, taillights dwindling like cautious hopes refusing to go dark. Thursday dawned with frost on rooftops and an email from Maryland marked urgent. A faction of board members planned a vote of no confidence, citing distraction, unauthorized philanthropy, market volatility. Daniel read it twice, pulse oddly calm. He pressed call. Marilyn answered on the first ring. Tell the board I'll address them tomorrow, he said. And prepare the succession documents. Marilyn gasped. You're stepping down? Stepping aside, he corrected. I'll remain majority shareholder. But the CEO seat belongs to someone whose priorities match the company's current path. He ended the call before she could argue, every cell buzzing with relief and terror. By resigning, he would lose daily command but not ownership. He would free time for Lily, for paint-splattered hallways, maybe for a woman who saved storms and colors. That afternoon he signed papers, adrenaline singing through his veins. Cameras swarmed the lobby. He issued a single statement. Leadership is more than profit. Today I choose the legacy that matters to my family. Then he disappeared via service elevator, heart racing like the first plunge of a roller coaster. He arrived at Jefferson Primary during final dismissal. Children poured into sunlight. Lily spotted him, Fox perched on her shoulder, and ran. Daniel lifted her, spin-hugged, something aching but joyous in his chest. Angelica emerged last, wiping chalk dust from her palms. She read the resolve in his face before he spoke. I quit, he said. Her eyes widened. You, what about? I've got shares for tuition if she wants, roofs if they leak, and about 1,000 hours I used to waste being important. He set Lily down. Now I want to know the right way to volunteer for our club. Angelica stared, searching for the catch. Finding none, she exhaled a laugh that trembled at the edges. We're making papier-mâché planets next week. It's messy. I'm unreasonably wealthy in detergent. The three of them walked toward the parking lot, twilight gilding cracked asphalt. Beyond the chain link, red and gold leaves skittered like confetti celebrating choices most of the world would call reckless. Daniel felt Lily slip her hand into Angelica's and his into Lily's, a small circuit completed. Somewhere in corporate offices, analysts debated his sanity. But on this stretch of worn pavement, sanity felt overrated compared to the fierce, imperfect clarity of paint-splattered futures. And though trouble would surely knock again, Daniel finally understood what Angelica had seen all along. Sometimes the wrong door stays open long enough for you to choose whether to walk through. Monday morning arrived with the kind of sharp blue sky that makes even tired buildings look hopeful, and Daniel found himself pacing the tiny faculty lounge at Jefferson Primary with a tray of pastries he had baked at dawn. He kept rehearsing nothing in particular until Angelica stepped through the doorway. Cheeks flushed from playground duty. Braids loose today because Lily had insisted on helping braid them and ran out of time. She tasted the nearest croissant, closed her eyes, and declared it criminally good. Daniel's pulse eased, though his news still throbbed behind his ribs. 2 weeks had passed since he abdicated the corner office throne. During those days he had learned the names of janitors, repaired a sticky locker hinge, and discovered that kindergartners judge adults less by wealth than by who is willing to tie wet shoelaces. But corporate gravity hadn't let him float free. The board, hungry for reassurance, called emergency votes. Journalists stalked his sidewalk. Investors buzzed about hostile takeovers. Daniel ignored most of it until Friday, when Marilyn sent an encrypted file stamped confidential. Inside lay a petition from Lily's late mother's parents, Arthur and Vivian Hale, requesting emergency review of guardianship. They argued Daniel was destabilizing their granddaughter's life with impulsive decisions, exposing her to media frenzy, abdicating corporate responsibility, and therefore proving emotional unfitness. A hearing was scheduled in 10 days. Daniel had read the motion 3 times, feeling each sentence scrape marrow. Then he baked all night. Now, as the faculty lounge filled with the sweet smell of almond, he told Angelica everything: custody threat, legal deadlines, the fear curling under his ribs like a watchful cat. She listened without interrupting, fingers tightening around a chipped mug. When he finished, she set the mug down carefully, as if even porcelain deserved steadiness. "The Hales love their daughter," she said. "They're scared Lily's memories will fade. Fear invents monsters." Her gaze found his. "We fight monsters by flooding the dark with facts and kindness." Facts meant lawyers. Kindness meant keeping Lily's routine intact. They drafted a schedule: Lily at school, Daniel volunteering in the art club, evenings quiet at home, evidence of stability. Angelica offered to testify about Lily's progress, but Daniel hesitated, not wanting her dragged into courtroom glare. She countered that children deserve adults who refuse to flinch and that nothing grows in shade. Argument closed. That afternoon, Lily proudly invited Daniel to sit in on show and tell. She presented a watercolor of 2 mountains joined by a rainbow bridge. When a classmate asked what the rainbow led to, Lily said, "Clear as day. A place where sad people remember how to breathe." Daniel's throat pinched. Angelica laid a subtle hand on his shoulder. Outside, sunshine bounced off paparazzi lenses stationed behind parked vans. The school's new security team formed a discreet cordon. Daniel guided Lily to his car while cameras fired questions about boardroom coups and rumored romance with the art teacher. Lily squeezed his fingers tighter until doors shut and the noise muffled to distant gull cries. Daniel promised himself again that no microphone would ever drown her voice. In evenings he assembled a legal defense. Character references from child psychologists, evidence of counseling sessions attended, proof of consistent routine. Yet Arthur Hale's lawyers were thorough, releasing leaked footage of Daniel exiting an exclusive restaurant with Angelica one late Friday, an innocent staff celebration dinner, but tabloids captioned it, "CEO abandons parental duties for new fling." Daniel feared perception could outweigh truth in family court. The following Saturday, Art Club tackled papier-mâché planets under fluorescent buzz. Angelica painted Saturn's rings with second graders while Daniel mixed flour paste, laughing when Lily splattered his hair with violet slurry. Mid-laughter his phone vibrated. Expecting another headline, he almost ignored it, but the caller ID read Gaines, the principal. Daniel answered on speaker so Angelica could hear. Gaines's voice trembled. District headquarters had received an anonymous tip accusing Angelica of professional misconduct, inappropriate closeness with a student's father influencing educational decisions. The district suspended her pending investigation, immediate without pay. Angelica's brush slipped from her fingers into the paste bucket. Children looked up, sensing tension like barometers. Daniel ended the call, fury sparking cold and bright. Angelica wiped paste from her wrists. "They're protecting themselves." Her voice was even, but Daniel saw the quake beneath. "Truth still floods the dark, right?" she asked softly. He nodded once, though the darkness felt thicker now. He drove her home in silence, Lily humming in the back seat, unaware. Angelica's apartment building leaned tired against a noodle shop. He walked her to the door. She thanked him for the ride, but when she turned the key, her strength finally bent. Daniel caught her elbows. For one suspended breath their foreheads touched, a fragile shelter they both needed. No paparazzi here, only the city's heartbeat and their own. Sunday bloomed cold and bright. Daniel called his lawyer, demanded immediate motions to delay the custody hearing if necessary, then drafted a public letter. I welcome accountability. I will not allow dedicated educators to be collateral damage. His communications director begged him to reconsider. Daniel published the letter on every platform he owned. By evening, a grassroots campaign #HandsOffOurTeacher trended, parents posting stories of Angelica's impact. Former students uploaded decade-old drawings she'd saved for them. Gaines phoned to say district lines were jammed with support calls. At the same moment, Marilyn texted, bored livid. Market spooked. Daniel replied with a single image, Lily's rainbow bridging mountains. Monday, the district announced an expedited review panel. Daniel arrived with Lily and a file of testimonies, therapists noting Lily's regained speech, pediatricians praising her health, Angelica's spotless evaluations. Dozens of parents crowded halls wearing handmade buttons, paint with Maud. Panelists glanced uneasily at cameras. After 2 tense hours, they lifted the suspension, citing overwhelming evidence of exemplary conduct. Relief crashed through Daniel, but celebration was brief. The custody clock still ticked. That night, he and Angelica sat on his apartment floor with stacks of construction paper, helping Lily craft a diorama for Science Day. Thunder muttered outside, inside, scissors snipped, glue dried in comforting fumes. Lily narrated her miniature universe to Angelica, voice confident. Daniel watched them under lamplight and thought this might be what breathing without fear feels like. The next morning, the Hales filed an emergency injunction claiming media frenzy endangered Lily. Court date moved to 48 hours. Daniel's lawyer warned they'd need unimpeachable proof Lily thrived. Angelica suggested bringing the community canvas mural, evidence painted in Lily's own strokes. Gaines approved removal. Volunteers worked overnight to unbolt the cinderblock-sized artwork and mount it on temporary supports. Court day dawned gray. Marble hallways smelled of copier toner and nerves. Arthur and Vivian Hale sat stiff in tailored grief, their lawyer sharp as winter wind. Lily, clutching Fox and Daniel's hand, wore a dress speckled with faint paint dots because she'd refused any other. Angelica waited in the corridor, subpoena in hand, eyes steady. Inside the courtroom, arguments clashed, stability versus recklessness, privacy versus purpose. When Lily's turn came to speak, Daniel's lungs froze, but the judge knelt so her bench mic carried softly. Lily, do you know why you're here? Lily nodded. Because people are worried. Worried about what? The judge asked. Lily thought. That my dad loves me wrong. A collective inhale rippled. How does your dad love you? Lily raised her Fox high. He lets me paint the sky any color even if it doesn't match. Angelica testified next, describing Lily's progression from muteness to vivid storytelling, anchoring each statement in observation, not emotion, though her voice wavered when she cited the Rainbow Bridge painting. The mural was wheeled and last, color-soaked sterile walls like sunrise-breaking courtroom night. Gasps escaped spectators. Arthur Hale's face softened, hurt wrestling with awe. Final deliberations stretched eternal minutes. When the judge returned, her ruling fell like gentle rain. Daniel retained full custody. Grandparents granted generous visitation conditioned on supporting Lily's educational environment. No relocation orders. The gavel echoed. Outside, cameras surged. Daniel shielded Lily with his coat while Angelica guided them to a side exit. In the parking lot, Vivian Hale approached, eyes glossy. She knelt to Lily, voice cracking. Can we learn your colors too? Lily offered her a spare brush from her pocket, turquoise bristles stiff with dried hope. Vivian accepted, tears spilling. Daniel watched, chest hollowing, then filling with something warmer. He glanced at Angelica. Her smile was small, exhausted, triumphant. That night, Jefferson Primary's gym lights burned late again. Children, parents, even grandparents dipped brushes into every impossible hue, finishing the upper corner of the community canvas where space still waited. Daniel climbed a ladder at Lily's insistence and painted a final stroke. A fox poised on the rainbow's highest arc, tail flicking toward the unpainted sky beyond. When he climbed down, Angelica met him, paint on her cheek, heart in her eyes. He whispered that the board would vote tomorrow to finalize his successor. She asked if he was ready. He said he was finally ready for the right work. She reached up, thumb clearing a smudge from his jaw, fingers lingering as if the world had slowed. Somewhere above them, Lily laughed, and for Daniel the sound felt like a door opening, not by mistake this time, but by choice. Parts of the sky were still blank, But there was one more section of story and canvas, waiting for color none of them had named yet. The boardroom felt smaller than Daniel remembered, as though every polished surface had been sanded down by months of absence. Sunlight struck the table's lacquer like a camera flash, and across from him Marilyn set the agenda tablets in a neat arc. 12 directors filled their chairs, faces familiar yet remote, like portraits that had stepped out of their frames. Daniel sat as guest, not ruler, Lily's rainbow-infused badge pinned inside his jacket pocket where handkerchiefs used to ride. Marilyn cleared her throat and the vote began. Digital squares illuminating green for William Chun, longtime COO, as successor. A single red flickered, Arthur Denton, ever contrarian, but majority spoke. With a soft chime, the company severed its last official filament, tying itself to Daniel's daily pulse. Applause rang thin. William turned to him with genuine thanks, yet the room felt colder than sidewalks in December. Daniel rose, accepted a ceremonial fountain pen, and in the same motion handed Marilyn a sealed envelope. My final motion as majority shareholder, he said. Allocating 10% of annual profits to a perpetual fund for public school arts and mental health programs administered by an independent board. Eyes widened, numbers spun silently behind every eyelid. William asked if investors would revolt. Daniel smiled. Investors like growth stories. This is one, children into confident adults. When he stepped into the corridor, the air tasted unfiltered, new. Reporters waited behind velvet rope, cameras flashed. He offered a statement no microphone could edit. I walked away richer in time than I ever was in money. Then he left the building that had once mistaken itself for his entire horizon. At Jefferson Primary, the bell had just released a spill of children. Daniel parked among dented minivans, heart thrumming with relief at bubblegum shrieks and scuffed sneakers. Inside the gym, the community canvas now soared window to window, sealed with varnish faintly sweet. A final quadrant remained blank, reserved, Angelica had said, for the part of the story none of us know yet. Today, folding tables spread with clay, wire, and shards of mirror. Angelica, chalk on her jeans, waved him over. Self-portrait mosaics, she announced. Everyone gets to decide which pieces of themselves shine. Lily ran up, brandishing safety scissors. Dad, can you help cut? He knelt, guided her hands as she trimmed blue glass for her fox's tail. Angelica knelt opposite, pressing a shard of amber into Lily's sunburst design. Their fingertips brushed, a current passed so plainly that Lily giggled, eyes glinting conspiratorially. Halfway through the session, a custodian wheeled in a battered cart. On it sat Lily's stolen watercolor tin, paint stains intact, ribbon tied around the latch. A note lay on top, belonging isn't a price tag. I'm sorry. No signature. Angelica read it, breathing out something like mercy. She handed the tin to Lily, who opened it solemnly and chose turquoise, dabbing Daniel's nose with a quick dot before sprinting away. Laughter broke over them like warm rain. Evening settled violet beyond the high windows, but the gym lights stayed bright. Parents arrived for pickup, then lingered, gluing their own mirror fragments, unwilling to leave the hum of making. Daniel noticed Arthur and Vivian Hale at the door, hesitant. Lily waved them in, presenting her fox mosaic like a medal. Vivian knelt, coat brushing paint flecks, and asked whether foxes could carry bridges on their backs. Lily answered, only if someone believes the bridge is light. Arthur's shoulders folded. He asked Daniel for a word and, in halting phrases, apologized for mistaking media noise for danger. Daniel clasped the older man's hand, feeling decades of grief and pride thread between their fingers. They agreed to dinner next week, no lawyers, just pasta and story time. When the last families drifted out, Angelica and Daniel stood before the empty quadrant. A hush bloomed, vast and inviting. Daniel fetched a ladder, propped it steady. You first, he said. Angelica dipped a brush into midnight purple, painted the faint outline of a door slightly ajar. A spill of golden light beyond. She climbed down, cheeks flushed. Daniel ascended, heart banging against ribs like a drumline, and added 2 silhouettes stepping through. One tall, one smaller, hands joined. Hesitated. Then, with careful strokes, painted a third figure beside them, braid cascading. Beneath he wrote in tiny letters, sometimes the wrong door is the only one that opens. He climbed down, Angelica was wiping silent tears. 2 on the nose? He asked. She shook her head, laughing softly. Perfectly on the door. Lily scampered over, inspected their work, and pronounced it missing stars. Together they flicked white paint until constellations bloomed around the silhouettes, galaxies spun from simple speckles. Cleanup was slow, pleasant. Angelica folded tarps, Daniel stacked pallets, Lily chased runaway marbles across the gleaming floor. When everything was away, they lingered at the back exit where night air smelled of cedar mulch and distant street food. Moths circled the single bulb, dusting it with wingshadow halos. Daniel cleared his throat, suddenly uncertain, boardroom eloquence useless here. I don't know the protocol, he began, for asking the person who taught my daughter to talk about sky colors if she'd consider seeing where our colors overlap. Angelica stepped closer, paint still on her cheek, voice steady. Protocol is overrated. She brushed the turquoise dot still staining his nose, then traced his jaw as if mapping safe passage. He bent, kissed her with the gentle awe of someone entering sacred space, and felt her smile against his lips, real, belly deep, the kind that couldn't be rehearsed. Lily's delighted whoop made them break apart, laughing. She swung their joined hands like bells, declaring future projects, statue gardens, planetariums made from umbrellas, Fox storybooks. Daniel promised unlimited glue sticks. Angelica promised bedtime readings in silly accents. The parking lot lights flicked off automatically, leaving them in moonlit hush. They walked to Daniel's car, 3 shadows woven into one, every step a brushstroke on the blankiest part of their shared canvas. Behind them the gym's windows glowed faintly, and on the newly finished mural the small painted family glimmered beneath fresh constellations, proof that a mistaken drop-off, a cracked playground fence, and a teacher who refused to flinch could rewrite the map of an entire life. And if tomorrow skepticism returned, or headlines barked, or fear tried to redraw borders, they would answer with more paint, more laughter, and a door forever propped open to the right kind of wrong.